Good morning. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Marilyn Orr, President of the club, and we are thrilled to have you join us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV, as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel and Facebook. Our club meets weekly using this digital platform, Zoom. When we meet in person, it's at Laurel Lake Retirement Community for breakfast. We hope to get back to that soon. We meet most Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. So come out to join us for a meeting. We would love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact we are having on our local community and the world, please visit our website, rotaryhudson.org. So enjoy this meeting today and help us share the message that Rotary opens doors of opportunity.
You are being recorded, right?
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Liz Ramsey.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Oh, okay, you can hear me. All right. Good morning, Rotarians.
I can hear you.
Good morning, Rotarians. Joseph Leopold Coyle. What did he say? All right, I'll start over. Joseph Leopold Coyle, born in Canada, invented the egg containers that kept eggs and prevented eggs from being destroyed during transit. So as Coyle's egg box protects eggs inside it, so do the perfect laws of our Creator, your God, guards those who believe in him. That protective egg box is God's law, which is summarized by 10 overriding principles. Now let's pray. My tongue speaks your word, for all your commands are righteous. Lord, we pray that our country will return to your principles of protection and guide our future generations with your light. Lord, where would this country be but for the courageous men of faith, writers of the Constitution, who were clearly seeking God's wisdom when America was founded? Also, we pray right now for our veterans and those running for leadership. And also our own Jim Young, who is scheduled for knee surgery this Friday, and others unknown to us at this time. In Jesus' name, amen.
And now to lead us in the pledge and four-way test, Phil Tobin.
You know, I've been here in the club for 30 years and I very seldom get a chance to read the pledge. Thank you for inviting me, Ron, to do this. I'd like to suggest that when we read the pledge today, we do it in memory of the 13 servicemen that lost in leaving Afghanistan. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendship? 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Phil. And now our president, Pat Shearer.
Good morning, Rotarians, guests, and those watching at home. So, quote for the day, and I think it's appropriate given everything that is going on in our country and for us locally. An honest public servant can't become rich in politics. He can only attain greatness and satisfaction by service. Harry Truman. There is a foundation meeting immediately following today's club meeting. And I would like to call up Jim from the Clock Tower Club for a quick announcement.
Good morning, everyone. We, for a long time, as the Clock Tower Club, have been invited by your organization to join you for your fundraiser. Okay, better? Good. Our club has been invited by your club to join you for your fundraiser on an annual basis. We thought it was time for us, for the first time ever, to invite you to a fundraiser for our club. And our fundraiser is going to be held on October 15th at Cap Manitowoc, and it is going to be a bourbon fest. We have 4 distilleries that will be joining us. We have a caterer who's going to be there. We have music that's going to be there. The main event starts at 6:30. There'll be between 10 and 12 different half-ounce tastings. And then, though, if you want to come at 5:30, we're having a premier event where you have a chance to spend time with the distillers and have their premium brews. So we would hope that you could all join us. It should be a great night of fun and entertainment. If you want to come, you need to acquire a ticket in advance, and you can do that by going into our Hudson Clock Tower Rotary website. It will link you in with the Hudson Community Foundation, and you will get your tickets through them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. You hit a sweet spot there with me with bourbon. So, all right. And with that, we will turn the meeting over to Dave Basil, who will start our debate this morning.
Thank you, President Pat. I'm Dave Basil, and it is my pleasure again this morning to continue with the presentation of candidates who will appear on the ballot in the election this November. Today, we will begin to hear from candidates for Hudson City Council. This year, all 3 at-large seats on the 7-member City Council will be chosen. There are 8 candidates for those 3 seats. The 3 candidates receiving the most votes will assume office at the first City Council meeting in December. And again, recognizing the trend toward early voting over the past couple of elections, we are holding these forums a month earlier than we have done in the past. As with past meetings, I will briefly introduce each candidate, who will then have 5 minutes to discuss their qualifications and share their views on the issues. Following their prepared remarks, those present will have an opportunity to pose questions using the central mic. Those watching via Zoom will have their questions read to the candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to a question, and in order to facilitate as many questions as possible, we ask that you keep your questions short and to the point. Please avoid long preambles and statements that reduce the opportunity for others to ask questions. The candidates will not interrelate with each other. They will not respond directly to each other or ask each other questions. Again, it will be an opportunity for those in attendance, either in the room with us today or via Zoom, to ask their questions. Out of respect, we ask that everyone hold applause and not applaud individual statements or responses to questions. With that, the first candidate speaking this morning in alphabetical order is Mike Donovan. Mike was born and raised in Danvers, Massachusetts. He earned his bachelor's degree in public management from the University of Maine and his master's of public administration from Northeastern University in Boston. Mike, his wife Terry, and their 3 children, all of whom graduated from Hudson High School, have lived in Hudson for 17 years. His 30-year career has focused on negotiation, budgeting, and public policy in both the public and private sectors. Mike has worked in industry and government relations at Progressive Insurance Corporation since 2004. His governmental experience includes being elected to a local office at age 21 in Massachusetts and 6 years working for members of Congress in Washington, D.C. During his time at Hudson, Mike has been involved in community athletic associations, principally with involving youth. Please join me in giving a Rotary welcome to Mike Donovan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Basil. And thank you to the Hudson Rotary Club for allowing me to address you on the coming election. Again, my name is Mike Donovan, and I am a candidate for Hudson Council at Large. And I'm hoping that Hudson voters will vote for me because I have the knowledge, the skills, and the experience to do the job. I think I'll hit the ground running if elected. As Mayor Basil pointed out, I have a master's in public administration, and I've got 30 years experience in both public and private sectors. I have been a resident of Hudson for 17 years, and I think the main issue that I'd like to address, or that I think the first issue that we as candidates or as the Hudson Council needs to address are strong financials. And I think citizens of Hudson are proud of our city. It's a good city. We've got great services. And I think that we have I know we have strong financials. And I know that we've had clean audits, successively clean audits from our independent auditor. We've got strong financials. Currently, there's a 40% surplus in the general fund. And because of these audits and our surplus and our good financials, the city receives high ratings from the credit rating agencies. Currently, Moody's has Hudson at a AAA rating. And with these strong credit ratings, Hudson is able to borrow at a fairly low percent. I think they're currently, they have loans of 2%, which is better than what the business community can get. Because of these low cost loans, we can invest in capital projects like road resurfacing, sidewalks, and other capital improvements, stormwater. And I think those are important. The other things I think that we need to address going forward are phase 2. And I know that last night we had a new proposal before the council. And so there'll be some time to go over that. But I think that's an important project, an important item that council will be considering. And I think citizens have a lot of interest in, as you know. I think we also have the Hudson Public Power contract with Prairie State and AMP. I think that's looming in the future that will need to be addressed by council. Again, I've got a lot of experience. I've got the background. I'm ready to hit the ground running, and I ask again for your support. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. The next candidate is Karen Heater. Karen is a 40-year resident of Hudson and is a licensed professional engineer. She graduated from Grove City College with a degree in mechanical engineering and started her career with BP Oil in Cleveland. Her 30-year career, including 10 years in the utility industry, has taken her to Columbus, Ohio, Kernersville, North Carolina, and ultimately back to Hudson, where she is currently a program director with Sodexo Roth. Her community activities include coaching Kiwanis Little League Baseball, recreational soccer, serving as a Red Cross swim instructor, and tutoring math and science for local students. Karen currently serves on the board of the Friends of Hudson Parks and is a member of Hudson's Environmental Awareness Committee. She is married to Dave Heater and they have 3 children. Please join me in giving a Rotary welcome to Karen Heater.
Good morning. Excuse me. My name is Karen Heater, and I am running for City Council at large. Thank you for inviting me to speak this morning to share some of my insights and just a little bit more of my background so that you can get to know me as a candidate. I moved to Hudson in the early 1970s and attended Hudson schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. Living on Elm Street, close to downtown, was a wonderful childhood experience for me. I delivered the Akron Beacon Journal. I worked at Saywell's drugstore and would ride my bike all over town. I have fond memories of summertime. Western Reserve had a day camp and it was just magical. It was swimming and tennis and art, very simple. After high school, I attended Grove City College, graduating with a degree in mechanical engineering. I started my career with BP Oil in downtown Cleveland, where I designed underground storage tanks for the retail service stations. My work experience throughout the past 30 years has included significant amounts of engineering design and analysis and administrative tasks, such as client management, local, state, and federal permitting and reporting, and staff management. And as Mr. Basil explained, I'm currently the program director for our energy services group at Sodexo Roth. I'm a licensed engineer and a certified energy manager. My children are now, I have 3 children, Sam, who's 24, Andrew, who's 21, and Elise, who's 18. So I'm on that, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Over the last several months during my campaign, I've spent a lot of time talking with residents. And I've been asked many times, why are you running for council? And the simple answer is, as an engineer, I have value to add as your city council representative. I understand and I have extensive experience with many of the facets of city operations, fiscal and budget management, design and operation of water, sewer, and electric utilities, management and allocation of staffing, and communications. My position requires clear transparency with my clients, just as we require transparency with our residents. When approached with a task or presented with an opportunity, I know how to explore the various pros and cons and come to a resolution. But there's much more to my answer. My childhood experience in Hudson was iconic. Hudson was safe, quiet, and a friendly community. Everyone in town would attend the annual ice cream social. Families would donate desserts and we would congregate on the green. I realized that we can't keep Hudson in a time bottle and that we need to evolve. But I want to make sure that we grow organically and in a way that maintains our heritage and our small town character. Our town has changed over the last 30 years. We've incorporated into a city. Our downtown area has expanded with the phase 1 development of First and Main, and we have significantly added to the total number of houses in our city. According to the 2000 census, there were just over 7,350 homes in Hudson. There are now over 8,250, which is a 12% increase over 20 years. Yet our total population has increased only 3% since 2000. We are overdriving development of the few areas that we have left designated for residential use. Our current zoning codes allow up to 12 homes per acre in the historic residential downtown area. And those projects require that less than 25% of that space can be used for single-family homes. This is just open season for developers who have no concern about Hudson and its residents to come and exploit the code and make lots of money and throw high-density developments without any of the repercussions of exponentially adding to the burdens of our infrastructure, traffic, and school system. When I talk with residents, one of the reasons that they move to Hudson is they say for the small town character, for the historic district downtown, or for the school system. We want to make sure that we maintain those values so that we can keep our residents in town. In closing, as an elected body, city council members have a responsibility to work collaboratively and make decisions in a fiscally responsible manner. that are in the best interest of our residents. Over the last year, I've observed on more than one occasion where city council members work independently and submit proposals to the rest of council body for approval that involve spending taxpayer money without financial analysis or research or community input. And in one case, this would have involved a tax levy. This is not how a city council body should work. We should work collaboratively together with transparency and financial responsibility. Thank you.
Okay, are there questions from anyone in the room for the candidates? If so, again, please come to the central mic. And if you could identify yourself when you pose the question, we would appreciate that as well.
Hello, John Adams. Just curious, if you got a chance to set the agenda, what would be the #1 item on the agenda if you were on council? Address to both of them.
Okay, I'll start with that question. My #1 item on the agenda would be to discuss the phase 2 development. As Mike explained, there was a proposal on the table last night at the workshop. And, based on last year's vote, residents clearly want high density development. They did not want more commercial space. We had indicated that we would also follow up with a survey to residents, and we've not yet done that, as I understand. So the proposal that was placed on the table last night is somewhat time sensitive. They are asking that we expedite and respond more quickly because of some of the details that are involved. So this requires that we very quickly get out to residents and we get feedback and we make sure that we have that transparency and get the residents buy-in before we move to that next step and really start committing to this proposal. I think it's a very good plan, and I think that it is closer to what residents want. But there might be some tweaks that we need to do. But I think it's something that we would need to focus on, 100% quickly so that we can move forward.
Mr. Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. I agree with Karen about making sure that we have public input and that we consider all. I think that this is going to be something that will take a little time. I know I was at the meeting last night, and the developer is putting a little bit of pressure on time, and I understand that. I understand from his perspective that he wants to do things expeditiously, but I do think that we need to have input from all parties, and it's not something that we want to rush through. As Karen said, the public definitely had opinions with the last proposal, and so I think we need to, as far as, yes, that is probably one of the top, if not the top initiative right now before council, but I think that we need to be careful and make sure that we listen to all sides.
Thank you. Other questions from the room? Yes, Doug.
Thank both of you for coming this morning. My name's Doug McDowell. I'm a 35-year resident of Hudson. When people around town get more like my age, we hear the ongoing discussion of, geez, I'd like to downsize. Okay, and there's obviously very limited sources of that. So a lot of our friends have moved to Twinsburg and Stowe. And our example, Pulte is building a townhouse community right on 91 South here. And we've got, I happen to think that although we do need to work hard to retain the small town atmosphere and so forth, we also need to grow somewhat. Those kinds of neighborhoods that generate tax revenue and typically have no school-age children do not impact the school system, et cetera. What are your thoughts on some, of course, nobody wants a community like that in their neighborhood, okay? But what are your thoughts on at least working with developers to try to do something like that? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I'll go first this time. With the proposal that we heard last night at council, they are taking into consideration some empty nester housing. I think that there were some first floor masters within the proposal. Again, it was all very preliminary. And so, you know, we do need to look at the new phase 2 proposal. But I agree with you. I'm hearing that same sentiment from people as I'm talking to people in town, that we need more diverse housing. We have a lot of 4-bedroom houses in Hudson, a lot of good, it's a great family town, great family neighborhoods, and I have benefited from that myself. But I'm moving into the empty nest stage as well. So I understand the desire for more housing of that type. And I think that it's being addressed. But again, there's still a lot to learn, and we'll be seeing. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, and you're absolutely right. That is something that I hear as well. Probably 1 out of 20 people that I talk to mention the need for downsizing, smaller homes with less maintenance. And I agree. Phase 2 does present itself as a perfect opportunity for that. And as Mike mentioned, that is something that's under consideration, I think, particularly for this phase 2 development. I think with the higher density housing, there are ways to just be a little maybe smarter about it. And people do have those concerns. I don't want that in my backyard. And some of that's just because developers do come in and they tend to take advantage of the maximum the code allows. And so it just doesn't really look in place when we throw these up. But we can do it in a way that's, a little more collaborative. It's a compromise. It still provides that little higher density, but it does it in a nice, smooth transition that blends in with the surrounding area and does maintain, more of that heritage that we enjoy here in Hudson. I think we just have to get a little bit smarter about it. And I think that comes down to our zoning and our land development code, but particularly the zoning codes. So I agree with you, and I hear that, and I think that that's definitely under consideration.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from anyone in the room? Yes, Mimi.
Sorry about that, guys. I have a question that is, I think, also important for Hudson's future. And that has to do with how you envision Hudson making the transition to a sustainable energy future, which means off fossil fuels. How would you, as a council member, approach that reality? Because we have till 2035 at the outside before we go over the precipice, based on all the scientific knowledge that we can actually put our finger on right now.
So I think the question is, how do we, as a city, is it more related to the concern with Hudson Public Power, or is it more related to how do we become a little bit more sustainable, or how do we get off the grid, 100%?
Well, as long as we have Hudson Public Power as our facilitator of electrical energy, that's certainly part of the mix. But my question was, how do we get to a sustainable energy future?
Okay, I'll take a stab at that. With regards to completely getting Hudson off the grid, I don't know if I could wholeheartedly answer that, but I think it starts with Hudson Public Power and the fact that currently Hudson Public Power has 40% of its its supply comes from renewable sources. The average across the United States is actually 12%. So we're doing pretty well with that. So in any event, you know, there's other avenues that we can explore. You know, I think solar panels have been looked at. But I think right now we have to focus on the concern with Hudson Public Power. The law that was passed requires, it extends it a little bit to 2045, but we have to make some changes by 2035 in order to, you know, at the plant. And we are still locked in for a contract until 2057. So I think first and foremost, we have to make sure that we take care of, you know, that contract and you know, make sure that we can at least continue getting our supply from the Indiana power plant. And as always, evaluating options for other sustainable supplies within that stream.
Thank you for the question, Mimi. With regard to Hudson Public Power, Karen's correct that we have levers, including our portfolio. So, you know, there's a certain percent that of the portfolio, meaning the percent of this type of energy or that type of energy that we buy to supply Hudson Public Power. There's only a certain percent that is from AMP, Prairie State, coal powered, and then there's a certain percent that are renewable. So as I understand it, we can decrease our cost a little bit by getting more renewable, getting a higher renewable percentage of that portfolio. So I think it's something we should look at. It's coming down the road. You know, this contract is coming due. I mean, it's a 50-year contract, but we will be needing to look at that, the contract with Prairie State, but then also looking at our portfolio and increasing renewables. So is my time up? Is that what that sign was
Okay.
for?
Okay.
Okay. And then there are also other levers, though, as Karen said, solar panels, you know, how we other development, you know, impermeable surfaces. You know, I mean, the more that the more concrete there is, the more runoff there is. There's other ways to address environmental issues besides the Hudson Public Power. So I think council needs to look at all those things.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Other questions? Yes, George.
Good morning, George Snyder. There is a lot of outrage and divisiveness in this country, and also more specifically in Hudson. So we've seen in recent school board meetings, as we've seen from some of the comments by our mayor. So my question to each of you is, as a public official, what would you try to do to create a more harmonious atmosphere and more collegial atmosphere in city council?
Yeah, thank you, George, for the question. I'll go first this time. I think what we need to do is we can disagree, but without being disagreeable. I think that, you know, decorum in public hearings, I think is something that we can do as members of council. And I've made a pledge that I won't disparage other members of council or city staff in public forum, including online. I don't think that is productive, but I do think, I've heard this in campaigning, that people are concerned with device, concerned with civility. And I think that all we can do as candidates, and what I hear Karen saying, I think that candidates are putting a good face on it, and we're hopeful. We want to enter into this with all the best of intentions. So thank you for the question. I'll let Karen go.
Thank you. That is a good question, and I appreciate the opportunity to sort of put my thoughts out on that as well. I think first and foremost, certainly we have to have respectful dialogue and understand that everybody has an opinion, and work collaboratively when we do meet together. I think the other facet of it is that ultimately we have to remember we're working for the community. You know, we're elected officials and we work for the residents. So we represent the town, and when we make sure that we remind ourselves that we are representatives of our constituents, you know, ultimately we need to make sure that we, you know, show that respect for each other as well. So I think it does come down to just, you know, having that respectful dialogue, remembering that the residents are who we work for, and then ultimately work together to come towards a compromise.
Okay, James.
First of all, thank you both for running. It's, trust me, I know campaigns are not easy. But so for people who aren't aware, in the school district, the schools were alerted that there was a text used in a class that had inappropriate language in it. In response, the district removed the text, apologized, and said that they would look at procedures and how these are reviewed. Apparently, the people who had noticed this had communicated to the mayor of the town. The mayor came to the meeting, said that he had talked to a judge and that demanded that the school board resign or be charged with child pornography and endangerment. So my question to both of you is, as city council members, would you support the mayor in his efforts to force the school board to resign? And do you think that was the proper action to take? Thank you.
Okay, I'll go first. That's an interesting question. So I was aware, I have followed that, you know, whole incident. I didn't see what happened. I've just read that, and of course it's on the news now. The question is, would I support the mayor in that effort to force the school board to resign? And no, I don't. I think there's a due process for things like that. I think that, you know, as I understand the textbook in question, it was brought to attention of the school board, it was removed, and they are undergoing an investigation. So I support the due process. You know, I think, you know, the engineer in me, and we are going to deal with these kinds of issues as a city council representative. I think it's important to try to keep emotion out of it. Again, let's stick to the facts. You know, what are the next steps? What do we have to do? And then let that process happen naturally. So was that your whole question? I'm sorry.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, James. The short answer would be no, I would not support the mayor. I do agree with Karen that there is a due process. The mayor, he's a ceremonial position. He does not have any authority. He doesn't have a vote. I think that it's possibly inappropriate for him to make that statement at school board. But, you know, as a citizen of Hudson, he can make public comment, and that is his right. But I would not support him in his initiative to ask the school board to resign. I think the school board's doing a great job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Other questions from the room? Yes, Bill.
Good morning, and thank you both for coming here. And excuse me, I'm a little slow. My question, is that good? Can you hear me now? Okay. My name's Bill Wooldridge, and there's a subject that's very dear to my heart. It's the form of governance we have in Hudson. And we have what's, I think, often called a city manager, weak mayor form of governance. Of course, the other form of governance, you see it in a lot of cities in Northeast Ohio, is a strong mayor, who of course is elected and then acts the role as the leader of the city. My question to the two of you is, do you agree with the current form of governance that we have in Hudson? Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Short answer, yes, I agree with the form of government that we have. I think it's very appropriate for a city of Hudson size to have the strong council manager form of government, where you have 7 members of council kind of setting the mission, setting the direction for a professional staff who comes in and performs the job and are subject to the review of the council. I think moving to a strong mayor or another form of government would not be appropriate. I don't think there's any call for it right now. With this city doing so well, as I said earlier, our financials are great. I feel like we have a good city, and I would not recommend changing. So.
I also support our current form of government, having 7 elected council representatives and then a city manager who's hired and managed by city council. I think this does a number of things. I think it provides, a governance process, as Mike said, I think is appropriate for the size of our town. It encourages the community to get involved, which is one thing we've always had in Hudson, and we want to continue to have that. They can provide input for decision-making through their council representative. And that's very important to make sure that we have touch points on what the community really wants. As I said, it does provide those checks and balances that we want. We've got those opposing views, which sometimes can become a little strong, but that's important. Again, that respectful dialogue, we need we need that diversity in viewpoints. And then there's a stability factor with that too, because anytime we would want to remove, somebody, we need that super majority vote. And that's important because we want that stability of, continuing to have consistent staff. I did spend time talking with staff members, and there's some that have been there, 30 years. We're really blessed to have that here and the experience.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the room? Yes, Phil.
First of all, thank you for being brave enough to come up here today and speak before us. So my question is difficult. I understand that, and I apologize for that ahead of time. And my thunder was a little bit stolen by Mr. Snyder, because it's kind of related to his question, but I'm gonna ask for a little bit of public participation here, okay?
Phil, you gotta speak.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. So anyone that believes that politics has no place on city council, please stand up. No place on city council. Okay, I'm the only one that believes that. To me, that's important. I think that having politics put at bay to serve, to be a public servant, allows you to, your decisions to be driven more by your character and your values and not your political ideologies. So that's my own personal belief, is that politics should not play a role on city council. So first of all, do you believe that? Number one. And number two, how will you work hard to have your decisions driven by your character and your values and less by your political ideologies?
Okay, good question. So I do agree. I don't think that city council representatives, it shouldn't be, partisan, we'll say, I guess, if that's, I think what you're kind of getting at. And it didn't used to be like that. Back in the day, city council was not like that. And I don't know what's happened, maybe it's our country, but we have become a little bit more partisan. For me personally, as your elected city council representative, my party or affiliation, that doesn't define me. What defines me is my character, and it's my belief system. And, some of that, it really doesn't come from that, partisan belief wherever it is that I fall. I have that engineering background. I tend to think critically. I, look at financials. I want to be responsible with our financials. It's taxpayer money, and I want to, be good steward of that. So, for me, it really comes down to how I define myself, and it comes down to my character. I don't define myself by my party. So.
The question. I agree that that this is a nonpartisan position, and I think that city issues, particularly, I don't think they typically should be partisan. I think when you're talking about paving the roads or utilities, even development, I think that we all can get together and work together toward the common goal. I don't know that there really is. I don't want to act like I don't want to, be a, ostrich with the head in the sand. There is probably some politics. There certainly is politics, but I don't think that's the goal. I think that I think we all set out to work together and be nonpartisan, and figure out what the problem is and work at solving it together. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Any other questions from the room? Yes.
Hi, a follow-up to that question. Are either of you endorsed by a political party? And are you taking any money from any political party?
Thank you for the question. I am not endorsed by any political party, and I am not taking any money from any political party.
Thank you. I also am not endorsed by a party, and I am not taking any money from a party.
Other questions from the room? Any chat questions?
Earlier this year, there was a proposal to the city council for term limits, and just was interested to get both of your perspectives on term limits for city council.
Certainly, I'll start. I don't think term limits are a bad thing. I know the concept was that, sometimes it can be difficult to find people to step up. And when you do have somebody in place, they really get to know the system. There's kind of a comfort that comes with that. But, I think there's a danger that comes with that too. And that's, the community tends to stop getting involved and, just kind of takes things for granted. So I do support term limits. I think it's a good idea. I don't know what that right number is. Is it 2 terms? Is it 3 terms? But I do support a concept where we try to encourage more community participation.
Thank you. Good question. I tend to lean against term limits for this office, for local office. I don't know that it is productive. I certainly see it, you certainly see it in state and national office, but I don't think it is necessarily appropriate for local office. I know there was a proposal before council that failed to get enough votes. And I think that one of the criticisms of that proposal was that it was coming from council, and typically term limit initiatives are sort of organic and come from the community. And I don't think in that particular circumstance you were seeing it coming from the community. So I hope that answers.
Okay. Any others from the room? We don't have any coming through chat. None? Okay, again, thank you both for joining us this morning and good luck in your campaigns.
Think as we guys can, just got a couple of things as we wrap up today. We want to thank our two candidates for being here this morning and sharing with us. We have remember there's a foundation meeting immediately following today's club meeting. And we have one of our candidates standing immediately here to my left. So I'm going to ask him to make the selection of the ticket in the basket. One person's really going to like you, and no, I'm just kidding. So, and the number is 716-527, 716-527. It's a $6 payout, and the jackpot is up to 217. 716-527. Going once, going twice. You're gonna look. It's not yours. All right. Next number. All right. We'll try one more time. (716-525). 716-525. All right. Okay. Last chance. All right. Well, I don't think this has ever happened. All right. That's not your fault. So. All right. 716-531. 716-531. Jayard. All right. All right, Jay, I'll just come right down up front. Verify that there's a black marble in there. All right, there you go. No, but you do get the $6. I'll get you your envelope. Yeah, $6 big, Jay. Get you coffee. There you go. All right. And I know every one of you wait for this every week. What musical instrument is found in the bathroom? A tuba toothpaste. And with that, we are adjourned.